Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We've got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show. We bring you the latest in everything Bitcoin, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about that long-awaited CPI data release that came out at 8:30 a.m. this morning, where we saw, drumroll please, we saw a 0.1% drop on CPI. Yes, not that big of a drop, but still a drop. And so that is going to help give the market confidence over the next 24 to 48 hours that we could very well see a rally resulting from the fact that CPI maybe didn't go down the most, but it did go down some. That means that now our setup is the effective federal funds rate sits at 5.15% and the CPI sits at 4.9%. So we now know that the effective federal funds rate is above the CPI, which means that the Fed has well and truly accomplished their objective of getting the effective federal funds rate higher than the CPI coming out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That means that the United States dollar is likely coming under control, inflationarily speaking, but we're going to look in a lot more detail what that means over the course of this stream, because one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that last month we saw a 1% drop off on CPI. This time we saw an order of magnitude smaller drop by only a 0.1% drop on CPI, and because the CPI drop was a drop, but it was not a very substantial drop, Bitcoin actually hasn't moved that much. It's actually still below $28,545, sitting at $28,200, showing us that Bitcoin so far anyway has not had a massive rally. Do want to apologize for being 5 minutes late today, guys. We had one heck of a doozy of a night last night. As you guys know, we have a daughter, and she turned 4 weeks old yesterday because she was born on a Tuesday. She turns 1 month old tomorrow because, 4 weeks isn't exactly a month. She was born on April 11th. Today's May the 10th. Last night, she did not want to go to sleep. She did not want to take her nap. She was awake from 4 p.m., right before we left the office, until 10 p.m. So for any of you who know anything about newborns, being awake for 6 hours is a recipe for a very overtired and fussy and cranky baby. So we were planning on getting to play some Mario Kart, having some fun. My wife and I just as a couple, just playing some Mario Kart, just spending some time together because we've got a million and one things going on. I'm 22, she's 23. We've got 2 kids, run a business, a lot of stuff, newborn obviously. So we were going to play some Mario Kart. That didn't happen. Instead, we drove around the neighborhood for 45 minutes, or 30 minutes, hoping that the baby would fall asleep. She did. And then she woke right back up and stayed up for another hour and a half. And then she woke up all throughout the night. So I'm a very tired man, and my wife is even more tired because obviously she's feeding the baby, so she's extremely tired. So just a little bit of a sneak peek in our personal life. That's something I've noticed that I don't really do as much as I used to. I used to share with you guys a lot more what kind of goes on behind the scenes, and I think you guys really like that. It's not obviously the point of the stream. The point of the stream is technical analysis, but hopefully by you guys getting to know the guy that's presenting the TA, you can realize that, hey, I'm a real person too. I'm not just some random face on the internet. I'm not like a chat GPT generated computer AI image that has some kind of robotic voice that has to be synthesized into a real voice here on YouTube. I'm actually a real person with real a real life just like you guys have. And so apologies for being late. Definitely not an excuse, but hopefully that will give you a little bit of insight into what's going on behind the scenes. Let's go ahead and read some chat. Daniel J is in chat, said, good morning. Mike Lowry said, good morning, everybody. Hashtag FinSolve. Hashtag FinSolve indeed. I've got an exciting announcement right after this stream. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and set it to premiere right now. There is a video coming out that I am super excited about, where I am going to teach you guys something that I call FinSolve Financials, financially sovereign financials. And in that video, I'm going to be showing you guys how some of the ways that you're investing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are actually messing up your chances of becoming what we call financially sovereign. That video will be going out at 11. I actually just set it to premiere as we speak right now. So if you click the link in the chat, you can see that premiere, and I will attempt to watch that premiere with you guys. I think you guys will really like that content. All right, Sean O'Brien's in chat. Crypto Surg's in chat. Said, buenos dias, Jebb. Buenos dias también, Crypto Surg. BTC Crypto Alerts in chat. Rave Song Records. La Red de los Secretos is in chat. What happened to Pepe? We'll talk about that in a moment. Crypto Military Vet in chat. Mario de Leon is in chat. I wonder, are you named after Don Juan Ponce de Leon, the man that discovered and named La Florida, the state that I live in? I am very curious. Daniel J said, first chat always feels like a Mexican standoff. Yes, it's like that meme of the three Spider-Mans pointing at each other. All right, we got Flair Stanking in chat. Shadrach Frost, OMAC, Sean Frost. We've got Sean Frosh. I'm sorry, and Jojo. We've got I was gonna say we have the Battle of the Frosts. So almost a Battle of the Frosts in chat. All right, let's go ahead and jump on into the stream. Cool, crazy, techie dudes at GetHedge used to be a sponsor. Is it still recommended? Yes, they are. And in fact, we're looking to reach out to them and try and bring them on as a sponsor again. I do really like their service, guys. Like I said, we don't bring on sponsors that I don't actually believe in. And even though we're not currently sponsored by GetHedge, I do think it's a pretty good project. All right, let's go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap and talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's up 2.6% over the last 24 hours, down 0.5% over the last 7 days, up 24% over the last 90 days, and still up 69% year to date. We love to see Bitcoin doing well. Bitcoin is sitting at $28,227. That is still below the fateful level of 28,545. As you guys know, 28,545 is what we call the top of the transitionary zone. That's something that we talk about quite a bit here on the stream. Ethereum is sitting at $1,879, below $2,038, which is the top of its transitionary zone, but it is still sitting up 2.14% over the last 24 hours, and is still up 1.27% over the last 7 days. BNB is up slightly. There is a little bit of skepticism around exchanges right now because we have another cryptocurrency exchange that unfortunately has kicked the bucket, and this cryptocurrency exchange is one that I kind of hold near and dear to my heart. We'll talk about Bittrex here in a little while. Very sad what's happening. XRP up 1.56%, Cardano up 1.59%, Dogecoin up 1.75%, Solana up 2%, Polygon up 0.41%, Polkadot up 2%. Across the board, we're looking at 0.5 to 2% gains on cryptocurrencies. And you might think, well, Jebb, that's just not that big of a rally. Why is the market not rallied more on the CPI data release? Well, because when CPI dropped, it only dropped by 0.1%. You can see on all items in major categories right now, we are looking at a 4.9% inflation year over year. From, what would it be, April to April. This is the CPI data that we're currently contending with. This means that the major categories has dropped by 0.1%. If we look at the read more here, excuse me, not at read more. If we look at the actual, the table, so we go to read more, we can see show table here. We can see some of the things that have changed in price. Fuel oil is down 20%. Gasoline is down negative 12%. Energy commodities across the board is down 12.6%, slightly higher than it was last month, meaning that it's not contributing as much to declining inflation. That being said, food came down ever so slightly. I believe this was sitting at 8.2%. You'd have to look at some of our previous videos. It's down to 7.7%. I know this is a drop. This is helpful because it means that food is stabilizing, but energy is starting to stabilize as well. The tricky thing is that food was going up, energy was going down. So when energy stabilizes, then energy no longer is contributing to declining inflation. But on the positive side, when food is stabilizing, it was going up. So it is contributing to stabilizing inflation. So food coming down in value along with the last several months of gasoline going up means that we are now seeing food trying to bring down inflation, and energy, even though energy was the one that initially brought down inflation, is actually kind of driving up inflation because it's no longer contributing as much to a lower CPI as it was. That being said, it's also not just food and energy that are contributing. All items less food and energy are also contributing as well. They're currently sitting at 5.5%. We can see things like shelter sitting above the CPI at 8.1%. Rent of primary residence is a big one. This might only be one line item in CPI, but this is one of the most important line items in the entirety of the United States economy, because the United States economy obviously is based very heavily off of where people live. That's one of the most expensive purchases that the average American will ever make. Looking at transportation services such as motor vehicle maintenance and repair and motor vehicle insurance, these are up dramatically as well, nearly triple, in fact, over triple what all items is. These are categories that are bringing inflation up. Shelter less energy services is up to 6.8%. Owner's equivalent rent of residences is up at 8.1%. New vehicles up 5.4%. Used cars and trucks are actually starting to go down, but they are still highly elevated from where they were 2 to 3 years ago. So don't get confused by that. Now, other food at home is up 10.4%. Non-alcoholic beverages and beverage materials up 9.5%. Food away from home. So we're talking about restaurants. We're talking about that wonderful, delicious smoked salmon on the 4th floor's cafeteria at that 4-star Hilton in Washington, D.C. That stuff is up as well. And by the way, that is a real reference, because in the end of 2018, I went to Washington, D.C., and we stayed on the Potomac River in a suite. And I tell you what, they had the best smoked salmon in the entire world. That smoked salmon is 8.6% more expensive than it was a year ago. So even though there were some very charming ladies that helped to serve us our breakfast, unfortunately, that meal would probably be $56 instead of $48. Of course, smoked salmon's very expensive, but now it's even more expensive. My point, inflation is getting worse in some categories. Maybe not so much getting worse, but it's still elevated in some categories, and we need to see it come down, because 4.9% is not going to be sustainable when you have all of these different categories, such as motor vehicle insurance, motor vehicle maintenance and repair, transportation services in general, and food sitting above the inflation rate. You need to see everything coming down. Now, naturally, you're always going to have something above and something below, because all items is an average of these 3 categories. So it's largely going to reflect all 3 of them averaged out. So that being said, we need to get food under control. We need to make sure energy stays below 0%, and major categories less food and energy needs to come down as well. Is that going to happen? That is a very good question that we obviously don't know the exact answer to, but I do have some concerns. Since we dropped 1%, much of that was because of the massive amount of inflation that had happened to the fuel and oil industry. The petrochemical industry, to use the technical term, had dropped off over the last 12 months during last CPI's report. So energy went massively negative, just pulling that CPI data down extremely. But now that is starting to no longer become a factor. In a few months, fuel and gas is likely not going to be a deflationary category. It's actually going to be an inflationary category. So for inflation to start coming down to 2%, based on what we're seeing this month with this updated data, we didn't know this yet yesterday before the data came out, but with this data, it is going to be harder to see inflationary drops unless we can see some major changes in the food industry, unless we can see some major changes in the real estate and in transportation. Those are the big 3 categories that we're looking at. So transportation, real estate, and food. Of course, those are 3 of the biggest things for a citizen of the United States to spend money on. Obviously, if you have a car, and if you have a place to live, and if you have food, generally everything else is a want. But you kind of have to have food, a place to live, and a way to get where you need to go. Think about it. If somebody is, I've been homeless before. If you are in a state where you have no home or anything, those are 3 things that you still need, and you still have to figure out a way to get so that you can basically function. You have to have somewhere to sleep at night, even if it's not fancy, because unfortunately you might be in a bad situation, and we pray for people in those situations, but it is just the reality. You also need transportation, even if it's just your legs, and you still need to eat. So those are the 3 biggest categories for everybody in the United States. A gym membership is a nice thing. I have a gym membership. I would like to go more, but of course we have a newborn. It is a want. Health insurance, a lot of times, is looked at as a need, but ultimately, in a lot of ways, it should be treated as a need. It's kind of a want if you have to pull back your finances. And a lot of Americans are in that state where they're saying, I have to pick and choose I have to amputate something. Am I going to lose my left finger? Am I going to lose my thumb? Am I going to lose my leg? I'm going to pick the worst of the evils. They're all things that I really kind of need, but I'm having to scale back on something, and there's no real wants here. We're not eating out. We're not going to the movies. We're not going on dates. We don't have any money. What are we going to scale back on? They're not going to scale back on food, rent, or transportation, generally, so long as they are not spending exorbitant amounts of money on those things. Those three categories are the stickiest. So when you look at those three categories, and then also fuel is a big one because you have to put fuel in the stuff that you transport and that you are transporting. So for example, fuel prices impact food prices because high elevated fuel prices have to get kicked down the supply chain to the end consumer of that corn syrup, because that corn syrup had to be transported across the country on a truck that uses gasoline or diesel. The point, those categories are very sticky because they're some of the most basic fundamental categories to living in the United States, and all of them are facing hardship right now. For example, the food industry is a very difficult one because while luckily the United States has just a ridiculous amount of arable land, unfortunately, we use the vast majority of that arable land for growing things that we don't eat. We use it to grow, not the vast majority, but a very large plurality of that land is used to grow things that we don't eat, or things that are additives in food that would have been edible anyway. I'm looking at corn because of all the subsidies. I'm also looking at any food that goes into biofuels. That land is not being used for agriculture that is going to turn into calories that the United States citizen will eat. And then, of course, we also are one of the largest exporters of food. So the United States is in this situation where we do have food security because we have enough land to grow enough food for everybody in the United States, but there's a lot of other things pulling at that food, which means that we do have to import some of it, which means that we have to be beholden to some of the economic woes going on in the rest of the world. Same thing with rent and transportation. When we are dealing with the used car, when we're dealing with the new or the used car market, we're dealing with a lot of supply chains that have been very, very, very heavily disrupted over the last 2 years. It is a miracle that CPI is this low, or it's fudged numbers by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I'm sorry, we're not putting on tinfoil hats right now, even though that's probably just a guaranteed fact. I don't even know if that's a conspiracy theory at this point. The point is, getting inflation under control is going to be a very difficult battle, and it's not as simple as raising the EFFR. And we're getting to that point where raising the effective federal funds rate will help some, but there gets to a point where raising the effective federal funds rate and dropping the balance sheet help with some of the inflation that was caused by the money printer being turned on in 2020 and 2021. But eventually you get to the point where the effective federal funds rate being hiked and the balance sheet going down, even though those might on paper be good things for the state of the United States economy and for the state of the United States dollar, they stifle the growth of industry, which means that prices have to continue going up because businesses can't afford to operate in this vastly new rate market and in this vastly new debt market that the balance sheet has portrayed. What is Bitcoin going to do in this situation? We're going to have to find out because Bitcoin has never walked through this transition. Because right now, the inflation rate has gotten down to 4.9%. No longer are we just saying, we're just going to slash inflation 0.6% every single month. We're getting into an area where we've gotten rid of a lot of the inflation that was driven by the inflation of the United States dollar. Now much of the inflation is being driven by and here's like the whole point of the stream. Now the inflation of the United States dollar is getting into this sticking zone where much of it is being driven by the rebasing of industry around the world as a result of the Russia-Ukrainian war and as a result of China turning into a one-man dictatorship, which it's already been for the last 20 years. But Xi Jinping is making that a lot more obvious with declaring himself a third term, basically crowning himself emperor for life. Businesses are trying to exit China at a never-before-seen rate, and there is also a huge concern on the geopolitical stage that there will be an invasion on Taiwan. That leads to an incredible amount of disruption in shipping because the Taiwanese Straits, that strait of water, it's about, 40, 50 miles wide, if that. I think it's actually like 20 miles wide between mainland China and Taiwan. That is one of the most busy shipping lanes in the entire world, and there could be a conflict between two of the most powerful navies in the modern arena, China and the United States, there at any point in the next 3 to 5 years. If Xi Jinping is crazy enough to try and launch an invasion on Taiwan, that would probably fail, but would also result in the demolition of civilization on the Taiwanese island, unfortunately. I don't say that with any joy in my heart, but the fact of the matter is, if they can't take Taiwan, they're going to bomb it into oblivion. That would have a huge impact on the semiconductor industry, on the geopolitical situation at large, because you would probably see carriers being sunk on both sides of that conflict, and a 1,000-mile radius around Taiwan You're not sending any cargo ships in there. So you're having a much more difficult time shipping things out of Vietnam. You're having a much more difficult time shipping things out of Brunei, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, because there's an active war zone going on there, and you have this huge disruption to global trade. The fear of that happening, even if it doesn't happen, is already leading to huge knock-on effects on things like food, on things like the used car market, on things like gasoline and fuel, and on industries such as the real estate market, believe it or not, because this is a very complicated system that we work in. The fear of China launching an invasion on Taiwan and the reality of Russia having launched an invasion on Ukraine is having a huge impact on the industrial plant around the world, and a huge amount of industry is having to rebase, which is driving a massive amount of inflation. I've been telling you guys this narrative for the last 6 months. With the geopolitical zeitgeist right now, industry is having to reshift their focus and their idea from a JIT, just-in-time method, where they make sure all the gears run perfectly on time, not a second early, not a second late, so there's no waste. It was a Kaizen method that Toyota came up with. Toyota really got introduced to it from the United States, but they perfected it. Now the rest of the industry is moving from a just-in-time method. I don't have time to get into what all this means, but they're moving from a just-in-time method to a just-in-case method, which means that you have less efficiency but more safety. When you have protectionist industry has to charge more, because that protection that they're putting up costs money. You know how much more money a city-state in 400 BC has to charge in taxes and in levies if they have to maintain city walls, versus if they're in the middle of this giant empire and they don't have to worry about defense? That's kind of what we're talking about. Right now, industry is on the defensive. It's in this protectionist mode because they don't know whether there's going to be a giant conflict coming out of China, which is where they used to build everything and where they used to have cheap labor, which is now no longer cheap because the average GDP per capita is rising in China. All of industry is having to reshift. And so that is leading to general inflation that's going to make target 2% harder. Getting inflation down to 4 to 5% was always going to be just a stroke of the pen, increasing the effective federal funds rate, dropping the balance sheet. It is not that simple anymore. And by the way, one final thing I'll say, just to kind of information dump on you, and feel free to watch this twice because I know I just said a lot. With the United States Federal Reserve dropping treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, rolling those off the books, that also means there's less money going into the mortgage market, which potentially could cause inflation in rent and primary residences, which is a big part of CPI, one of the most important parts of CPI. Why? Because one, there's less debt and less debt and liquidity in the market because they're rolling off the balance sheet than the market was used to, that inflated home prices 40% over the last 3 years. But also with the effective federal funds rate now being at 5.15%, that's going to mean that there are now even more expensive mortgages, which then has to be kicked down the chain to the renter, because now the renter has to pay for that, so that the landlord is able to actually profit. It means that rent prices have to go up because they're raising interest rates. So there's a lot of things going on here. Raising interest rates helps inflation in some categories. On the other hand, it can actually hurt inflation because it can cause inflation in things such as rent. So the way the Fed moves forward, I think, is going to be shifting a lot over the next 2 to 3 months with this information that CPI only dropped by 0.1%. This is not as simple as saying, okay, CPI dropped 0.1%, great, Bitcoin can rally now. And I think the market knows that. Bitcoin right now has rallied about $1,000 on this news. If we look at the 5-minute chart here, you can see when the news came out, Bitcoin did go through a rally. We rallied $600 in 30 minutes. But in general, going back to 4 p.m. yesterday, Bitcoin's rallied only $738 over 4 a.m. this morning. It's only rallied almost $700. We're in this ascending triangle pattern right now, and the symmetrical triangle pattern right now, which is a bull pennant. This could very well break to the upside, even just in the next couple of minutes. I would love to see that happen. But ultimately, guys, a couple of things are true here. Number one, this is a very small CPI drop, and because it was such a small CPI drop, anybody who's an analyst is going to say, wait a minute, Jerome Powell teased a potential rate pause. If CPI only came down 0.1%, is he really going to pause rates? Because not just him. Is the FOMC really going to pause rates on June 14th, the next time that we have that meeting? Maybe not. So because CPI only dropped by 0.1%, it is very possible that the Fed continues raising rates at least another 25 basis points, if not even for another 2 times, raising the interest rate by 25 basis points. At this rate, because of what we're seeing on CPI, the effective federal funds rate could go all the way up to 5.65%, which would make that one of the fastest. We're already seeing the fastest increase in rates that we've seen since the 80s, but that could make this one of the fastest rate increases that we've seen in over half a century, trying to get this inflation under control. The way that these things shake out over the next several months is going to be very, very much based off of the decision, off of the news that we just saw that saw inflation only drop by 0.1%. It was a drop, and that is nice, and that is wonderful, and we love to see it. It was not enough. And so because it was not enough, it doesn't look like Bitcoin's going to go through a major rally this month. And by the way, that's why I set up this long trade that I showed you guys to be above 28,545. I set it up to enter at 28,700 because I didn't want you to enter a long trade on this if you were just kind of going for broke until Bitcoin had really confirmed a major break above 28,545. And I am glad I did that, because you would potentially be entering a trade like right now, and then the market would be trading sideways. If Bitcoin breaks to the upside, here in the next couple of minutes on the 5-minute chart, out of this symmetrical triangle pattern, then we could very well take another leg to the upside. We have a 3 white soldiers candlestick formation going on right here. And by the way, if you guys don't know about the 3 white soldiers candlestick formation, I would highly encourage you guys to check out Club DeFi's Principles of Technical Analysis, because we talk about them right over here in the 19th video of Club DeFi, white soldiers and black crows. 3 white soldiers are showing up on the 5-minute chart, which could indicate that we're about to have a breakout on Bitcoin. We're in a perfectly diagrammed ascending triangle pattern here. I have seen this happen before when CPI data released. Bitcoin did this kind of first rally, and then it went through a second rally. We saw something similar happen over here. Back on, what was it, Monday? It was April 11th when CPI came out. We saw that massive rally, similar in size, where we saw Bitcoin went through a very short-term bounce, and then it went through an even larger bounce. You can see over here, Monday, the 13th of March, I believe was a CPI data release. Right here, we saw an initial rally. Now, this rally was larger because this was a 0.4% drop on CPI. Saw an initial rally of $2,500. Then the Bitcoin market rallied another $2,000 several hours later, almost a day later. It's possible that we see another leg to the upside here over the next 24 hours, but just keep in mind this early quote-unquote rally that we've seen is not really going to be enough to get Bitcoin moving all the way up to 32,935 like we would like to hope. That is likely now going to have to wait at least another month and see what CPI does. Now, here's one of my concerns about the cryptocurrency market right now, and I'll give you two. First and foremost, the Bitcoin market seems to be kind of dependent on CPI data to send it into a major rally. That's not the best sign, because Bitcoin really needs to be rallying of its own volition. It shows how dependent Bitcoin is on the traditional markets, and that's not something that you really want to see from a fledgling tech startup industry such as the cryptocurrency industry. Now, the second thing that is not very helpful for the industry right now is this article. Crypto exchange Bittrex files for bankruptcy after SEC complaint. Just read a little bit of this article. Cryptocurrency exchange Bittrex filed for bankruptcy protection on Monday, 3 weeks after the SEC accused it of operating an unregistered securities exchange. Seattle-based Bittrex ceased operations in the United States on April 30th, and it said the bankruptcy filing would not impact Bittrex Global, which serves customers outside the United States. The company's non-U.S. operations are based in Liechtenstein. If you guys don't know, Liechtenstein once put its entire nation, and here's just a fun fact for you, because I really wish I could have gone on Jeopardy. Liechtenstein, at one point put its entire country on Airbnb, and you could rent the country of Liechtenstein, and they would have, I think I'm saying that right, Liechtenstein. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering that. Liechtenstein, there we go. You could once rent the entire nation of Liechtenstein on Airbnb for like $5 million for a day or something, and you could live in their castle, because they're a little tiny little kingdom, one of the smallest countries in the world, and they threw you a parade. And I think somebody actually did it, and they did it for a wedding. It was some really rich family, and like you got to meet the royals and shake their hand, and they gave you a key to the city, and it was a publicity stunt to get people to come and be tourists in that nation, because it is a beautiful nation. Definitely a place I would love to visit one day. Looks a lot like some Lord of the Rings stuff. Bittrex assets and liabilities were both between $5 million and $1 billion, according to bankruptcy filing in Wilmington, Delaware court. Now, this is not a bankruptcy filing that is impacting Bittrex Global, but it does mean that Bittrex will no longer be operating in the United States. We already knew that, but it filed for bankruptcy as well while it was at it. This is not the mark of confidence that you want outsiders to be looking into the industry and saying, oh, wow, okay, so the industry's doing great. Let's look. A top 10 cryptocurrency exchange just filed bankruptcy in the United States. Oh, yeah, that I remember when that happened. Like, didn't 6 months ago, that weird guy with the giant afro file for bankruptcy for like $10 billion? Oh, FTX, that's what it was. That guy's still in the news, right? That's what people are thinking. So we have a PR problem in our industry right now because a lot of companies are filing for bankruptcy. And a big part of it is something that we've been shouting from the rooftops for the last 5 years. There is not regulatory clarity in this space. And sometimes where there is regulatory clarity, there is not a large amount of industry compliance with that regulation. Most of the time it's because that regulation is so ridiculously obscure that it would be almost impossible to follow it even if you knew what it was. That being said, it is still a huge problem for the industry, and once we get guardrails on this industry and it can actually grow without having all kinds of nonsense going on, like a bunch of SEC complaints against industry, FTX imploding and ruining the confidence in the industry because it was not properly regulated, because it was not shut down or fined $1 billion before it went bankrupt. We need some protections on this industry, and we need them for the sake of the growth of the industry. And by the way, I don't mean protections that tell the industry what to do so much. I mean protections against the government itself. The government needs to protect the cryptocurrency industry by making clear the way that the cryptocurrency industry is going to be regulated in the United States. Because the United States is kind of just shutting its doors for business for cryptocurrency for the sake of safety and protection. However, you can still use most of the cryptocurrency things outside of the United States that you can't in the United States. But the problem is the United States makes up a quarter of the global economy, and the United States is basically the king of the world when it comes to geopolitics. And we have been since the 1945. On VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, the United States has been the sole global superpower. Yes, the Soviet Union has been a superpower, but especially since 1991, we have been the sole superpower alone in the pond, and everybody follows our lead. If the United States closes its door for business, that's not like, Zimbabwe closing its door for business for the United States, for cryptocurrency in a lot of areas. That's a huge problem. How the United States dollar is going, how Bitcoin is going to fare in this new market, in this new climate of increasing regulation and increasing scrutiny from Gary Gensler's Security and Exchange Commission, we will have to find out. But we should not, as an industry, be terribly scared of the attacks that are coming against the industry, because if we truly believe in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, whatever it is that we truly believe in, it should be able to weather that storm if what we are saying is true. This is the reason I don't advocate for small cap altcoins very much at all, because I really want to hone in on some of the big players in the cryptocurrency industry, because they're the ones that have the biggest chance of making it through this artificial selection that cryptocurrency is being put through, the ringer is being put through because of government scrutiny, and also just because of all the bankruptcies that are happening as of late. I firmly believe that Bitcoin will go into another bull market and will do very, very well, but Bitcoin, as I keep saying, has to prove itself every single time a new bull market comes, because this time Bitcoin is in a very different world than it was in 2020, when there was slam to the floor inflation, slam to the floor effective federal funds rate. There's a huge amount of money printing going on. And you had a few very, very, very famous, very, very wealthy people, Michael Saylor, Elon Musk, getting involved in the cryptocurrency industry. We're going to have to pay very close attention to how this plays out over the next couple of years. All right, let's go ahead and read some chat. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And we're about to do some technical analysis after I read some chat. So make sure that if you have not already, to sign up for Club DeFi's Principles of Technical Analysis, because this is the place where I am going to teach you guys everything that you need to know about technical analysis so you can hit the ground running, investing in your education here in the cryptocurrency space. I want you guys to be successful in cryptocurrency, and I want you guys to achieve what I call financial sovereignty. That is a state where your finances are not controlling you, but you are controlling them. You are not serving your finances, but your finances are serving you. And so I want to teach you a profitable skill called technical analysis that is going to unlock profitable trading and investing for you here in the cryptocurrency space. All right, let's go ahead and read some chat. Coleman Cameron said, why do I not get notifications when you go live or post something? I've even turned on all alerts bell. Yes, YouTube doesn't notify people of our videos sometimes. That's a very common problem on YouTube. The way that you can rectify that is you can basically teach YouTube, no, actually, I do want to see Jebb's content by tuning into the stream several times, watching the videos, hitting the like button, commenting, chatting here in the live chat. That basically is YouTube's way of knowing, oh, wait a minute, he does like this content because he's interacting with it, and they should be more likely to push those push the streams and videos out to you if you do that, because they will kind of turn it off silently, even though they say you can turn on all notifications. In English, all means all. Apparently, YouTube doesn't understand what that means because they don't do that. Nevertheless, you can teach YouTube's algorithm to push that even if they're not doing it themselves. Alexander De La Paz said, my trades have all been negative. Any advice? So I can give you some broad advice. I don't know what the trades are, of course, so I can't give you specific advice on the trades. But what I will say is that if all your trades are negative, you probably should be using tighter stop losses, because if all your trades are negative, first of all, you should probably not be letting yourself get too far in the negative when you go in a trade. A lot of times you don't want to go 1 or 2% into the negative any more than that, because then you should have just exited the trade and re-entered the trade. Cut your losses, lose 1-2%, and then try and re-enter the trade. The second thing that I would say is that it's very important for you to understand technical analysis, because if you're making trades and you don't have a basis of technical analysis, basic understanding of technical analysis, you're not going to understand technical analysis. So, Alexander, what I'd love to do for you, send us an email at support@cryptojebb.com. We'll see if we can help you get into Club DeFi's principles of technical analysis, because we want you to be able to be successful in crypto. And technical analysis is the absolute way that you are going to be able to get started and profitable in trading. Your trading is not going to be successful if you don't understand technical analysis, because that's like trying to figure out how to launch a rocket into space, but you don't want to learn math. It's just not going to work. Trading is absolutely fundamentally based on technical analysis. I guarantee you, you will not be a successful trader without a solid understanding of technical analysis, in the same way that you're not going to be a skilled mechanic if you don't understand how to use what tools do mechanic. I'm not a mechanic. See, I would be a bad mechanic because I haven't invested in my education in it if you had not learned how to use all the tools. You're not going to be a skilled heart surgeon if you don't know how to use a scalpel. If you don't understand anatomy of the human body, you got to speak a language to be successful in a trade. So if you're trying to trade, then you need to be successful and you need to be very skilled and knowledgeable in the area of technical analysis. All right, RC Moore said, have you heard of Bambi, CoinMarketCap? I have not. I've not heard of Bambi. Guys, you guys know that I am notorious for not paying very close attention to small cap altcoins, because I'm trying to find the I'm trying to follow along with the bigger cryptocurrencies that are very, very successful, that have a track record of multiple years. Now, Bambi here, I don't know the first thing about this other than Bambi is really cute. And if you guys haven't seen the movie, you should. The only thing I can tell you here is that it's rallied a lot. Like, it's rallied 629% in a month. It's well, actually, not in a month, in the last 2 days, because it just launched, it looks like, over the last 2 days. I can look into it, but no, to answer your question, I don't know a lot about it. While we're here, let's take a look at Pepe. You guys keep asking about Pepe. Not going to encourage you to invest any more than maybe just a tiny little moon bag, because you never know if it'll go up. But you can see here, it's dropped 60%. The huge hype cycle. A lot of people were very excited about it. I remember when it was on the run up, we shot a stream like right over here. It was at the peak. I said, guys, look, buying into this now is a bad idea, because you don't know whether it's going to be able to keep going to the upside. It's already rallied a huge exorbitant amount. I said this last, what was it? When was the 5th? The 5th was Friday. Last Friday, I think it was. I told you guys, bad time to buy. If you were watching this stream, then you wouldn't have bought Pepe here if you followed my advice, because I told you right around 10:45 a.m. on Friday, don't buy this up here at the top. And you know what? If you had bought it, you've been down 60% right now. Pepe, it's got a lot of people talking about it. So look, if it's going to moonshot, it might have one more leg to the upside. Don't have a problem with you putting, $5, $10, $15, $20, $100 into it. Maybe if you've got a multi-$1,000 crypto portfolio, don't bet the farm on this. Do not put more than 1% of your cryptocurrency portfolio into a small cap, speculative, especially meme coin cryptocurrency. You will regret it. You just will. All right. Let's see. Guys shilling Bambi on Cryptos R Us and now Jebb. Yeah, RC Moore, the only reason I read that was because you've been a longtime fan of the channel, and I don't think you're trying to just pull my leg. So I have some trust for you there, my friend. I hope I didn't just promote a shill coin. I'm definitely not promoting buying it because I don't know anything about it. I bought Charlie Lee's bags. Rocket into the firmament. There is no space. Interesting. Okay. I would love to hear more about that opinion. We have somebody that said Elon Musk taught himself science. Let's see. Crypto Surg said, Jebb, it's like Electric Surg. My name, not the UG sound. Electric Sir. Crypto Sir. Is it like that? Is it like, sir? I'm not sure what you mean. Grand Roofing Incorporated in chat said, hey, Jebb, late but here. India is going to become a superpower IMO. They do not necessarily have as much infrastructural development and political clout as China does. They do kind of what China does. I think they're going to be stronger, but I'm not sure they're going to be this massive superpower that people are thinking they're going to be. What happens to inflation when oil reserves are all gone? That is a long way off, so we're going to have to really see about that. Let's see. Colin McDonald said, hi, Jebb and all. Show like and love. Guys, feel free to go ahead and give me any of your questions, and we can answer some of those. While you are doing that, I will go ahead and show you what's going on the chart for the SPY. I think it's very important that we understand what's going on the SPY, the S&P 500, because the SPY is a major driver of the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. The SPY is sitting up here right below this level at 417. If the SPY is able to go through a major rally up above 417, I think we're going to be in good shape because the SPY needs to break above 417 to really be able to go into a new rally and a new uptrend. We've been attempting to break to the upside up here for quite some time, but it just hasn't been very successful. We just have not been very successful in getting this market to rally straight through the ceiling, and I'm really hoping that that will change, but at the moment, it just isn't the case. Until the SPY breaks 417, we should bet that it's probably going to be in a sideways or a downtrend, and if the SPY does break above 417, that will likely give Bitcoin quite a lot of confidence, but honestly, look at Bitcoin. It's actually breaking bearish out of its symmetrical triangle pattern right now. We're not looking at a very bullish scenario on Bitcoin. Again, I would say a lot of that has to do with the fact that the SPY did not rally on that EFFR news. I'm sorry, on that, well, yes, on the EFFR news last week on the 3rd, but also on that CPI data release that we just saw. We're getting kind of, that was a nothing burger response out of the market to that CPI data that just dropped. I do believe that you're going to want to wait a day or so before you try making a whole lot of big trades. Now, if you're on the minute chart and you spot something, then go for it. But if you're trying to make kind of like a swing trade based on market sentiment, I would wait a day just to let the market kind of calm down. You know, whenever you, let's just say somebody's just gone through something like really traumatic. They just had something really bad happen to them. You probably don't want to go and like confront them on something that they're doing wrong right then. You know, you probably want to wait a little while and let them come back to rational thought. You know, when somebody's been through something very hard, they're in an emotional state. Understandably, it's kind of hard to rationalize with somebody who's in an emotional state. I think Bitcoin's kind of in that state right now. They just had something bad happen to them. The Bitcoin market was hoping, we're going to go to the upside. We're going to rally. And then it didn't happen. And so now Bitcoin's probably got a case of just the blues because it was hoping for a rally, didn't get it, and Bitcoin might act a little bit sporadic. It might act a little bit strange over the next couple of days as a result of the fact that Bitcoin was supposed to go through a breakout, and because we only saw a 0.1% drop on CPI, it didn't. Bitcoin is having a very difficult environment to go through major rallies right now. All right. The Classic IT guy said, smash the likes, guys. Thank you so much. Yes, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Freddie said, hey, I'm just listening to your stream as always. Please look at ARB. I can pay attention to that. I haven't looked at it yet, so I don't know if I'll be able to today. Let's see. Short the Pepe. Yeah. Let's see. Jebb loves ADA. I think it's a good project. As with everything in cryptocurrency this cycle, it's going to have to prove itself, but it's, I think it'll do well. Surge, I see. It's supposed to be pronounced Surge. Crypto Surge. That makes a lot more sense than Crypto Surge. There we go. Dodo said, any thoughts on Jasmine? No, but my son loves Baby Shark, and he calls it Dodo because of the song. So that just made me think of my 2-year-old. Pew Pew Poom 2 said, been here since 2021. Jebb, Joe. I do keep getting asked about Jasmine, so that is something that I could potentially look at in the future. I don't know anything about it because I don't look at altcoins at these small cap altcoins very much, guys. But what I will tell you is that if you guys would like me to look at more of that, I can look at more of that, and I would probably honestly just be tearing straight into a lot of these altcoins, and I would feel kind of bad because I don't want to just you know, just rain on somebody's parade. It's true, I have to search for you every time. It doesn't notify me. I've been watching since the Aviators time. I still have those Aviators. That is hilarious that you remember that. By the way, guys, we are working on kind of setting up the office in a way that's going to be really conducive to productivity and everything, and we found the Bitcoin sign. I'm really wondering what I should do with it. Tell me what I should do with the Bitcoin sign. You guys know what I'm talking about. The Bitcoin neon sign. If you've been here for that long, you will know what I'm talking about. Kobe McQueen said, looking fresh, Jebb. Thank you. You have a cool name. I never get notifications ever. That is strange. I need to figure out how to get YouTube to stop doing that to you guys. Cup and handle formation. Yes, probably. William said, like the stream and video. Absolutely, guys. It's development this year, and last year has been proving itself as well. Agreed. All right. All right, guys. Well, I am going to have to go ahead and wrap it out. Really appreciate you guys tuning in, but go ahead and jump on over to this video right now because I am going to be watching this with you guys at least a little bit. I don't know if I'll be able to watch the whole thing because we have to help our daughter with something. She's a little bit cranky right now, but I will be trying to watch at least some of this video with you guys. I really, really had a lot of fun editing it and shooting it. It's a little bit of an unorthodox video, but I think it's really, it's not the kind of thing you normally see here on the Crypto Jebb YouTube channel, but I do believe that it's something that is going to be very, very helpful for you guys if you do actually choose to watch that video, because investing in yourself, investing in the cryptocurrency space is not as simple as just buying the right coin. It also has a lot to do with your personal finances. So just make sure to go ahead and check out this video right over here. It is premiering in 9 minutes here on the YouTube channel. I had it set for the wrong day, but I just caught that, just so you know. It will be going up in 9 minutes, so make sure to check that out. I will go ahead and put the link over here in the live stream. I will see you guys over there. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good